I'm so excited for this. And it actually, one of our guests tomorrow evening is, I will give a shout out tonight. Her name is Minerva Perez. My name is Sherry. I think everybody here knows me, but if you don't, I'm Sherry. I'm the executive director here. And we're all thrilled to welcome you back to the church. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. About a year ago, we were continuing on the tradition that had been pioneered in the preceding years by our founders of thinking through community engagement and building relationships that are reflective of the different kinds of diverse people, creative souls, and makers of the East End, and what creativity can mean to pretty much anybody. And so a solidified program was formed called the Church Community Partners that identified the fact that we actually don't necessarily cannot get out there and embed ourselves in every single community, but all communities have leadership of their own who have relationships with their constituency, much as we do here. And so we identified 6 core community partners that represented different voices across the East End. And one of those partners is Minerva Perez of Ola of the East End, who, as an advocate for the Latino and Spanish-speaking population of the East End, and has provided so many amazing services to the growing population of Latinos in our community, is really the expert on the culture here. And I had asked her about a year ago for introductions of other community leaders and was led to Maria, who is with Juliana. They are the founders of Tu Prensa Local, which you will hear more about tonight, representing the only Spanish language news source on Eastern Long Island, and it actually happens to be one of the most read news sources on all of Long Island, which is just exceptional. So we developed a dialogue. These things do not happen overnight. You don't create trust and friendship and true community togetherness by one email. And so tonight, and tomorrow night, which is the first ever live presentation that Tu Prensa Local has organized in partnership with the church, is really just the sort of public unveiling of what is still a very nascent relationship that we hope will continue to grow and expand over time, and in response to what is a very rapidly growing part of the East End cultural and social fabric. So without further ado, I'm going to allow you ladies to introduce yourselves more properly. We are so thrilled to have you here. This Tu Prensa Local.
Hola.
Hola, hola.
I
Hola,
did.
hola, hola.
Hello. Buenas noches. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. It's a pleasure to us being here and to share a little bit about Tu Prensa Local, which is, like Sherry mentioned before, the only news outlet in the East End of Long Island in Spanish. So I want to start by thanking the church, Sherry and her team, for inviting us tonight. It's our honor to be here. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity to share our work with this great audience.
And hi, everyone. My name is Maria del Mar Piedrabuena. I'm the other founder of Tu Prensa Local, and it's an honor to be here, so thank you so very much. So you all probably know, right, what a news media outlet is supposed to do, and I'm sure you're also aware that there's a large Spanish-speaking population in this region. Tonight, we want to tell you the story of why local news matters, why everyone in our community should have a news source in their own language, and how Tu Prensa Local is contributing to making the East End a more inclusive, equitable, and stronger community.
We have prepared a video that highlights some of the work we have done during the last 4 years. We want to show show you the way Tu Prensa Local looks, what it means to the Latino community, the stories that we have impacted us, and the innovative ways we have found to connect with our audience. Check it out.
4 years ago, during one of the most challenging times we have experienced as a society, we decided to embark on an adventure and start a Spanish news media outlet for the growing Latino community of the East End of Long Island. We were motivated by our people's need to have access to vital information in their language from a culturally relevant perspective. It was a time of great confusion when a global pandemic tested our skills and resilience, facing the unimaginable. A time when a publication dedicated to the Latino community that was able to deliver professional and reliable information could be the difference between life and death. We worked tirelessly, connecting our audience to local resources and giving them the ins and outs of the new normal we were facing. We provided information on where to go and asked for help, what measures to take according to the experts, and shed a light on the trials of the pandemic. We talked about facts and figures, the toll it was taking, the desolation, but we also talked about hope, the commitment that all of us had to live again, how to conquer our common enemy. We accompanied our audience through the entire process. We introduced them to local heroes, many of them proudly Latino, and together we emerged from what for many months was considered an abyss. And so it was that by providing news and vital information every day, we created an unbreakable bond with our community. We conquered an audience that has always been there, an audience that believes in us and trusts our work. TuPrensaLocal.com is the only professional Spanish daily news media on the East End. Even among other Spanish outlets on Long Island, we are the leading source for Latinos, with an audience reach and engagement that can surpass many well-established publications. Tu Prensa Local was founded by two local immigrant women who share with many in their audience similar stories of struggles, triumphs, and tribulations. Two Latina women who are mothers, wives, professionals with extensive experience in journalism. Maria del Mar Piedrabuena, an established journalist who has worked in local and national media outlets in the United States, has covered various topics through articles, videos, photographs, and columns. She has received numerous journalism awards, including first place from the New York Press Association, several awards from the Press Club of Long Island, and a special recognition from Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Born in Spain, Maria del Mar graduated in journalism with specializations in digital and broadcast journalism, in addition to a degree in women and gender studies and another one in humanities. And Juliana Holguín, another journalist by profession and vocation, she has worked in print, radio, and television media in both the United States and Colombia. Over the years, she has reported on the armed conflict in her country, the war between the drug cartels, politics, business, immigration, education, social issues, and more. Her work has been recognized with various journalism awards, including Colombia's prestigious Simón Bolívar National Award and several awards from the Press Club of Long Island. Born in Colombia, Juliana is a social communicator journalist with a specialization in broadcast journalism and a master's degree in political science. The journalistic experience of these two women, but above all, their experiences as immigrants, has allowed them to create a magical connection with their audience. understanding the lives and needs of the people they serve, and the importance of their role as communicators in the local community makes these ties grow and strengthen daily. Our readers reach out to Tu Prensa Local's newsroom every day with many different queries. Sometimes they ask for guidance, other times they want to tell us their stories. Whatever the case may be, we are proud to say that thanks to our work and the loyalty of our audience, we can contribute daily to resolving many of the uncertainties our community faces. Here, we have a space for things that in traditional media there's usually no space. For example, our service to the community section, where we help readers with a particular issue. From someone asking for help finding a wallet they lost in a shopping center, or the family looking for their lost pet, to campaigns to help find a missing child, or raising funds to send overseas the remains of an immigrant that has passed away here, we are happy to report that in almost all cases, there has been a happy ending. In 2022, a Pachac resident approached Tu Prensa Local to help him locate his father. After 47 years, his mother revealed to him that the man he called dad in reality was not. We published his story, and our community mobilized. In less than 6 hours, we connected this man with his biological family, and this is just one of the hundreds of cases we handle each year. Our newsroom also hears many cases of injustice, situations in which someone in our community is a victim of a crime, or discrimination, or wrongdoing. Our mission, in addition to reporting the news and providing information, is also to connect people with local resources and organizations that can enable them to assert their rights, creating a more equitable East End for Latino immigrants. If something is happening in our community, we will report on it. If there is a resource that our people can access, we connect them to it. If someone has a unique talent, is making their American dream come true, or makes the community proud, we will tell you their story. If there's a festival, a forum, an educational workshop, an event that fosters civic engagement and community togetherness, we will share all the details. At Tu Prensa Local, we inform, we are there for our community, and we make visible the diverse Latino population of the East End of Long Island. We are a safe space for our people, a place where they can feel heard, supported, and understood. An outlet that represents Latinos in every sense of the word. That is why our bond with our audience has grown over the years, something that our community recognizes and appreciates.
Gracias Tu Prensa Local por cada transmisión, por cada información que nos das al pueblo hispano, inmigrante. Dios las bendiga.
Nuestra comunidad con noticias en español e historias que de verdad nos importan aquí en el East End de Long Island.
Yo los quiero felicitar por ese trabajo tan grande que están haciendo y por integrar también la noticia con esa parte social.
Informarse a diario de lo que sucede y pues es excelente. Lo que hace la prensa local es mantenernos al día.
La gente sabe que a través de Tu Prensa Local se pueden enterar de cómo se está moviendo el tráfico en las mañanas, cómo se está moviendo el tráfico en las tardes, si hay algún problema, si me voy a retrasar.
Ellos todo el día están mandándonos información, poniéndonos artículos de eventos que hay.
In September of 2022, after almost 3 years of strengthening and understanding our role in the region, we decided to expand our horizons and our mission and become a non-profit news organization, the only one of its kind on Long Island. We aim to have many more tools available to our community that will empower them. We want to have access to the necessary resources to create educational campaigns, to develop news workshops with our youth population, with our seniors, with our agricultural workers, and with the entire Latino workforce, which powers our local economy. We are aware that we need more resources to expand our platforms in our communication paths. That's why we created Tu Prensa Local Foundation, an organization that merges the principles of journalism with the principles of community service, education, and inclusivity. Just like 4 years ago, when we were born in the middle of a pandemic, today, the challenges the Latino community faces are still very much present. They remind us of the importance of our work and not giving up. The path we have traveled fills us with pride, and the future fills us with strength and hope. We are TuPrensaLocal.com, the Spanish language news source for the East End of Long Island. And we're just a click away.
Well, as you can see from the video, Tu Prensa Local is just more than just a news site. We try to connect people. That's what we do. And today we will explain how we work and go a little bit more in detail what is behind all of what you saw. So thank you.
So this is how Tu Prensa Local looks like now.
Hold on, sorry.
We start? Yeah, this. We made our name very obvious, Tu Prensa Local, which means your local press, because we wanted to make it easy for our people to find us and to understand who we are as soon as they heard our name.
So who is our audience? Although our reach goes way beyond the East End, our coverage is focused on this very special corner of the world. Having lived and worked here for over 2 decades has allowed us to understand the complexity and the depths of the Twin Forks, and also the immense need to focus on this area. On the East End, the demographic landscape is marked by significant diversity, with various ethnic and immigrant groups contributing to the area's rich cultural tapestry. Approximately a quarter of the residents in this region identify as Latino. In some areas, like for example, East Hampton, 1 in 4 residents is Latino. Within the immigrant population of the East End, Guatemalan immigrants constitute about 10% of that total, making them the 3rd largest community in terms of representation. And fun fact, did you know that Guatemalans are so big, the community is so big, that the Guatemalan government opened a consulate in Riverhead in 2021? Yeah. The other 2 predominant immigrant groups are from Ecuador at about 13% and Colombia at about 11%. This diversity is reflective of the global origins of the immigrants who call the East End home. It's also crucial to understand the familial dynamics of this community. About 39% of all children living here on the East End reside in families where at least one relative is an immigrant, underlining the interconnectedness of the immigrant experience within the region in concrete numbers. Over 8,000 children have at least one parent who is an immigrant, signifying the multi-generational nature of the immigrant presence on the East End. Something also very important is education, which plays a vital role in shaping the East End's future. Notably, 45% of students attending schools right now are of Latino descent. Some school districts is even higher. The diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds that these students bring enrich the educational experience in the region. Household composition also reflects the immigrants' presence, as more than 31,000 people live in households where at least one spouse is an immigrant. This highlights the importance of family units in the immigrant narrative, as many come to the East End with their loved ones in search for a better life. The immigration status of the East End's immigrant population is also very diverse. Roughly half of East End immigrants have achieved naturalized citizenship. The other half comprises a mix of individuals who will hold green cards or temporary visas or are undocumented. This diversity within the immigrant population underscores the complexity of the immigration on the East End and the range of challenges and opportunities that they face.
When we first came together, we didn't have any sponsors, but we had a vision and a very clear understanding that there was a huge gap in the local media scenery that needed to be filled. Our mission became very clear, creating a media outlet for a community that has been underrepresented for too long, a platform to have their voices heard and the stories told. And that's where the magic happened, because now they feel like they belong.
So, I'm sorry, am I on the right one? Hold on. Sorry. Yeah, I think so. No, I think this is it. Yeah. Yeah, Tu Prensa Local is committed to produce stories that follow the highest standards forms of journalism. Unfortunately, we live in the age of misinformation, unchecked social media posts, and fake news. Anyone and everyone with a camera and a mic can say they're a reporter. This is true of all languages in all communities. But within vulnerable groups, the tide of this infodemic is an actual flood. Research shows that Latinos won't necessarily get their news or information from a printed newspaper. They will actually turn to their phones, and specifically to Facebook and YouTube. This is why we have focused so much time during our first few years on building a relationship and building trust with our audience. As a trusted news source, we have been able to act as a buffer against the spread of misinformation on the East End. However, in order to reach our audience and for them to believe in us, we have had to take a more innovative path. We have primarily focused our journalism on the concerns and experiences of the people we serve. This approach has taught us that we need to reach our audience where they're at. Our stories, for example, can come in many different shapes and forms. For example, we publish an article, and that article will turn into a reel on Facebook, and then it will be part of our newscast, and then it will be shared on WhatsApp and on Messenger. So we find that this proactive multimedia, multi-platform news delivery has allowed us to reach more people more effectively. Also, collaborative journalism often involves partnerships, which can help build trust between media outlets and other audiences, and their audiences. However, collaborations between media outlets are rare, believe it or not, and are almost always hinged on a broader investigative piece. This is an area where we have come to shake things up, definitely. So far, we actively collaborate with Riverhead Local, 27 East, Southampton Press, WSHU, NPR, WBON, and others. This many partnerships in such a short amount of time and with a level of frequency is unprecedented. We collaborate on all kinds of stories and in all kinds of ways, from translating a story that we reported on and then sharing it with a media partner, to providing the unique perspective of an affected Latino community member who otherwise wouldn't be, in that story, to sharing of resources and more. Throughout this collaborative and solutions journalism approach, we're also offering a more balanced perspective by highlighting not only the issues, but also the efforts being made to address them. So here we have two stories on this slide. They both refer to collaborations that we have recently. On the left, we have a recent story where Tu Prensa Local partnered with WSHU, an NPR news station, to talk about how climate change was affecting local farm workers. Although it is very important to hear from climatologists and big experts about climate change and the impact that it's having in our region, we don't often hear, those affected and vulnerable communities, what's going on with them. In this case, we have a lot of stories about land erosion, about beach erosion, crop damage, and all of that. But how about all the people who toil daily on the fields of the East End? What's happening with them? We set out to find out through a series of community forums and interviews, which resulted in a story that exposed the lack of preparedness and direction that these workers have in the face of climate events and what to do about it.
One of our goals has always been to have an engagement with our audience that flows both ways. This builds trust and mutual respect, where both the community and Tu Prensa Local can exchange ideas, information, and experiences. Let me give you an example. We publish every day a photo of the day. Without fail, for the last 2 years, we had people send us a picture daily from every corner of the East End. The portraits we have received are a testimony of the Latino community's experiences. A construction worker building a deck in Sag Harbor and taking a picture of the setting sun of the horizon. A farmer working, taking a picture of the growing fields in Maritoc, or a landscaper stuck in the traffic on Sunrise Highway. And then, without fail, as soon as we publish the picture of the day, a flood of comments appear. People saying, good morning, God bless you, commenting on the weather, the traffic. This is a true digital public square where people connect. The East End has many wonderful community organizations that deal with a lot of issues and offer different programs and services. Our towns, schools, health centers, and more have a wide range of programs and resources. Our job is to connect these organizations, programs, and services with the people that will benefit the most from them. Your turn.
So, although we cover the East End of Long Island, our reach goes way beyond that, the 5 towns, right, that comprise the East End. We regularly get messages from people from Patchogue, Brentwood, Queens, the city, even beyond that, from Latin America, and people who have read our stories and just want to connect. On our news site, we see an average of 150,000 monthly page views, driven by 70,000 dedicated readers. This is a testament to the quality and relevance of the content we provide, and we are grateful for the ongoing support. One striking aspect of our audience is their age diversity. A substantial 61% of our readers fall into the 18 to 34-year-old demographic. This indicates that we are effectively engaging with a younger community, which is crucial for the longevity and relevance of our work. A quarter of our readers are also fluent English speakers. However, they prefer to receive their news in Spanish and actively engage with Spanish language content. This bilingual approach also allows us to cater to the diverse linguistic needs of our audience. On the digital front, our social media presence is thriving. Tu Prensa Local boasts a robust following with over 15,000 individuals reached on Facebook and Instagram. This shows that our content is resonating with our audience, and our online community is growing stronger by the day. So this now comes a part of it. As a nonprofit news media outlet, Tu Prensa Local is committed to serve the public interest and focus on providing reliable and independent journalism. We're driven by our mission. However, we rely on donations, grants, and some advertising to support our operations. We often compete with for-profit media organizations, which often have a larger budget and greater resources, despite us having a larger reach. So we want to take some time today, to ask for your support. If you are someone who cares about local news, diverse voices, and community-driven content, this is a chance to make a difference, a chance to strengthen democracy, to foster inclusivity, and enhance the local culture on the East End. Every dollar that is given directly impacts the quality and reach of our content. And if you can donate, please spread the word. That always helps.
So much.
So we're going to have a Q&A. Does anybody have a question to begin? We have one right here. I was also going to ask, I know a little bit about both of your personal backgrounds in journalism. I think it's really interesting and relevant to share. You only touched on it a little bit in the video, so as we go to the question, can you just share a little bit about your backgrounds in journalism and how you guys met?
Sure. So I came to this country to study, to go to school, and I went to Stony Brook University. And it's funny because nobody thought that primarily Spanish speaker Latina would choose journalism as a field, and in fact, the majority of our of my classmates only were no Latinos at that time. But I did. I said, I really want to do this. And through me being there, we started Spanish things at the school, at the university. The first broadcast in Spanish at Stony Brook University School of Journalism happened because of me. Nobody was speaking the language, but it's fine because we did it. And I think that's what really inspired me throughout my career after that, to even when there is no place at the table, to make a place, to fight for that place, or create your own table, right? And that's how Tu Prensa Local really was born. I worked in several regional outlets out here, River Local, 27 East. I was a bilingual producer at News 12 and Fortune magazine on a national scale. And I knew that when I finished my work as an editor at Riverhead Local the last time, I wanted to expand and do something in Spanish for the Latino community of the entire East End. So I needed a partner, a good partner, someone who, I really took this baby and we were able to take it to the next level. And I knew of Juliana's work. My husband actually, watched her because on the news in Colombia. And I was fortunate enough, that I was able to get her phone number, and I just called her one day and say, I have this crazy idea. What do you think about it? And she was amazing because she very patiently listened to me, and she shared all her ideas too. And together, we were able to really start this process, this adventure.
Like Maria said, I'm from Colombia, from Cali, Colombia. I used to work there as an anchor person and director of broadcasting or a news station until the guerrilla kidnapped me. And I have to leave the country and start from zero in this new space for me. And like Maria mentioned, we did a click with this baby that we call Tu Prensa Local, and we give us the opportunity to dream, and that's what we're doing now.
It's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, you have a mic already. All right. You're ready to go.
First, I just want to thank you for the presentation and for everything you've been doing for these years in community, but especially for your amazing coverage of what nonprofits here do locally. And you mentioned that. And for years, I've been writing the press releases for HOLA of Eastern Long Island. For those who might not know, Organización Latinoamericana, Latino-focused advocacy organization that Sherry mentioned at the beginning. And you are just so responsive, and you make sure, I write them in English, but you get them in there in Spanish. And your coverage has been always so in-depth. So Juliana, I remember when we were trying to mobilize Latinos to participate in the census during the Trump administration, when nobody was wanting to give any information of any kind and certainly not answer the door. You did a very in-depth article along with a long, extensive video interview of me and Marta Mafi of Sepa Mujer, because we were collaborating on getting people to participate in the census. So it's very in-depth what you do, as well as very broad, the scope that you cover. So my question is, how in the world do the two of you do it. It's just the two of you. And for these years, I've always wondered, because every time I go on the site and I see so much content, I am blown away how it's just the two of you doing all of this. So what is your secret? And how do we get that energy?
You have to ask him.
Such a great question.
Yeah. This is a big shout out to our husbands right there, because, you know, they are big supporters, and without them it would be very difficult, and our kids as well. So I just, you know, want to say that it's not easy. You know, it hasn't been an easy process. Like Juliana said before, this is a dream that we have, you know, fought for very hard, you know, shed sweat, blood, and tears for it. And we believe so deeply and passionately because we think it's so needed, right? And we just don't want to see it die. And for that, you know, we are working our hardest. We have been able to get advertising and donors, but we do need more support. And this is, you know, where partnerships with like the church and others here tonight who are learning for the first time about us, which is, you know, for some people it's incredible that we're doing all of this, you know, in the Latino community, but it's not known sometimes outside of that community. And that is something that has to change, because I think that in order for us to be able to grow this, to go beyond just the two of us, because there's so much more that needs to get covered, so much more that we could do better, right? So I really appreciate, you know, Sandra, you acknowledging that and seeing that. It's really wonderful. Thank you. And I have to say, Ola is one of our most trusted and wonderful partners, and, you know, the people who are there have been there. But like I said, we do need support and resources to grow this.
A great question.
Speaking of needing to do things better, since I was very involved in the rebuilding and opening of the Sag Harbor Cinema, which has been great, and now the church, but I just feel like with the Latino population here being almost a quarter of the people that are out here, how in the world do we make, I mean, I'm so happy that you're here tonight. I'm so really looking forward to tomorrow night. That's just going to be great. But, you know, it's just, there's such a gap, even though we're rubbing shoulders with each other all the time, and I've been kind of trying at the same time, being busy, of course, doing all of these things, like wanting to have more contact. And obviously, language is a problem. I don't speak, I mean, I know a few words of Spanish, but it's pathetic. But if you have any advice that you'd like to give us tonight, or if there are other innovative or even just simply practical programs that you would like to suggest that you think would help us get to know you better, and vice versa. I'd just love to know that, because it's, you know, I just feel like sort of stupid even asking this, but it's so, because it's so fundamental and it's so obvious, but sometimes the obvious is the thing that has to be brought up. So.
Thank you, April.
Well, so I would say you're not stupid at all. Please. But I understand where you're coming from. And the thing, it's not so obvious, actually. And we also discovered that, even if it's something from Latinos to Latinos, and it's that, you know, you don't have to wait for people to come to you. You have to go to the people. And that's one first advice that I would give. You have to be in those spaces, you know. You have to also have programming that the people want to go to. They have to see themselves reflected in that space. Otherwise, they're not going to feel welcomed. And I know that Sag Harbor has all of these amazing things going on at Sag Harbor Theater, all these amazing movies and everything else, but I think that having maybe a committee of Latinos who are local, who live here, and who, you know, would actually create their own programming would be awesome. Like I said, it's about representations, about seeing themselves reflected in that space, and it's also about Sag Harbor Theater or whatever organization going into the community in you know, where people are at.
We talked about that years ago, and started, you know, we would feel like we were making like an inch progress, and then life is complicated, and we just, you know, wouldn't pursue it because it was like an extra thing that felt sometimes insurmountable just because of the language and also the cultural. You have such an amazing rich culture, and we don't know enough about it. It's like it's a sin and a shame, because that's why I'm excited about tomorrow. And I hope everybody in this audience saw the ofrenda downstairs, the Dia de los Muertos ofrenda, because it's just amazing. And I love talking to Filiberto about it. But it's like we need to make more effort to have things like that, so that inquisitive people will make time to make that happen. Yeah. Everybody's so busy.
I agree, and you reach those communities by doing things like this today, for example, finding those leaders in those communities, and when I talk about communities, the Latino community is communities, because we can. It's a very diverse population. I know we're used to just putting everybody into this box, into this bag, but actually the Latino community is very, very different. If you're from Mexico, even from Mexico, if you're indigenous, or
even the two of you, you're from Europe and you're from South America.
Well, actually, my mom is from Colombia, my dad is from Chile, and I was born by happenstance in Spain. Yeah, and my husband from Colombia.
You might as well be an American. You're everything at once.
Yes, Stefan, sorry. Oh, and Star has a question.
Dancing is a wonderful way to get people together, and especially in Latin communities, dance has a big meaning. And I think that if you had some Latin bands here occasionally have a dance, you will attract a totally different audience.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I would say, yeah.
This conversation, actually, one of the ways that we started talking was over this. Yeah, it's not as easy as just us saying, let's have a Latino band, because we have actually, in fact, had a lot of Latino musicians here. The conversation with Tu Prensa was sparked over this topic, and as when I was giving the introduction, saying, you know, the recognition here as an organization that we need to create relationships of trust and partnership with the leaders of other organizations, and then that trust is mutual, and that they will come to us when they want to do a program, and that we will say to them, okay, we trust your vision. And the challenge for us with their vision was that it required more performers than we have ever had in one program at the church. And Talina and I were like, you guys need to come in here and see our space and see if we can really do this. And we're doing it. And we hope many of you will be with us. And we also hope that it's the beginning. But it was a trust. We didn't sit around and vet what they were bringing us. We didn't research all the artists. We trusted that they represent their community, that they know who the artists are, that their community wants to see. We were not programming it. We were partners in this as an extension of a sincere dialogue that evolved over time. And I think that's what you're saying as well.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something that is key here, is the trust part of things. I mean, out here, we're so privileged to have so much, in the sense that all this, or art organizations putting these beautiful, you know, exhibitions, sometimes bringing Latino artists or from wherever, or the programs and services, like I said, that, you know, organizations have, the events that are happening. However, you know, just putting that event or doing that thing is not enough. That's not enough. You can make it, you know, as wonderful as you want, but you have to have, you know, a trusted person or to tell you, you know, this is okay to go. You know, and that is something that is very true. A lot of organizations call us afterwards and say, we're so happy that, you know, we sent you the press release or we sent you the information because now I got, you know, more people to sign up for this program, or I got, so, and they didn't know about it before, maybe because, you know, they didn't get that knowledge at that time, or because just, you know, they didn't know it was okay to go to that place. And from us telling them, you know, it's actually a good organization, this is a good program, it's gonna benefit the community, say, okay, well, let's give it a chance, kind of thing. So it's about opening their doors and not doing things, you know, from the top down, opening your doors and being inclusive. And it's also about, you know, creating those relationships with the community.
I have a question. Can you sort of put into a hierarchy what the dominant creative ways that the community operates? Is it a music base, as you were saying? Is it a language base? Is it poetry, literature kind of thing? Is it dance? Is it painting, et cetera? How would you sort of, because as a cultural art organization, to be able to either shape programs that would be, you know, dynamically inclusive of the community, the Hispanic community, we can't take it for granted that we actually know where the strengths are. And you know, is it craft based? Is it tapestry weaving? You know, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have any idea?
Well, that is a very difficult question, by the way.
For all of us, actually, in our own fields. But.
Yeah, but I would say that, you know, like I was saying before, Latino is such a broad term, right? And you have art. It comes in also many different shapes and forms. In our experience, we have found sculptors, we have found painters, a lot of dancers and singers, and a lot of pride of where they come from. You know, like expressing their art has, you know, they're immigrants here in this country, so suddenly all of this nostalgia, so it's very present in their work, like talking about, you know, their roots. And we have an experience, for example, with this painter, this young painter from Guatemala, that he's very young, and he works as a painter during the day, like for houses and stuff, and after work, you know, he paints at his house, like beautiful, beautiful landscapes of his hometown in Guatemala. Or then we have, you know, all of these, we're gonna meet two of them tomorrow, actually, of these dancing groups. They're just, you know, get together because dancing and music is so much part of, you know, the culture that it's a way also for moms and dads to pass on their traditions to their kids, right? To follow all of that through generations to come. So I cannot give you a specific answer, but I can tell you that, you know, having a variety of different mediums it would be perfect. Yeah.
I just want to thank you both for giving your community, the whole East End community, the protection of a sort of gatekeeper on the truth, which is what journalism does. Because, you know, we have so many, when you talked about misinformation, everybody's going online. I just wanted, do you have anything to say about what you've discovered misinformation can do and what journalists can do to direct the truth. Like it says, journalism keeps you planted in the earth, you know. So I just want to thank you for making that a mission, because now more than ever we need it. Thanks.
Thank you for that. I think that journalists across, all languages are actually struggling with this, right? With this virus of misinformation. Well, for us in the Latino community, in Spanish-speaking communities, they're very vulnerable to the attacks of those who plant all of those stories, to conspiracy theories, all that kind of stuff. We saw that especially during the pandemic. People didn't want to put the vaccines because maybe they were going to get, or were going to be unable to have children, or all kinds of stuff going on around them. So our work of just repeating every day, no, this is not true, or not just saying no, it's not true, because sometimes when you say it's not true, it's like, people just don't read it. You have to have people talking about it, people who they relate to talking about it, And so not only talking to the experts, but to other people and say, I put the vaccine in and it's okay, my family's protected, and everything is gonna be all right. We're doing all this together, as a community, we have to support each other. So misinformation is a very difficult thing to fight, but like I said, if you have established that trust, they're gonna go for you to check on things. We have found that a lot, that they check with us on things. I read this and this in this group. Is this true? Mm-hmm. We receive those kinds of messages regularly. They check with us. I saw this on that Facebook group. I saw this on or can you give me more information? We have had to, sometimes, talk to people and research on things that we didn't even know. Just to give them, some kind of guidance, because we know that it's going to stop there. That if we don't provide that guidance, if we say, this is not our issue, and that happens in traditional media because I've worked in many traditional media sites out here, and it's just not your issue. You're a journalist. You distance yourself from things like that. But with us, we can't do that. We don't do that. We will help that person get to the bottom of that because they're having an issue and they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They don't know who to turn to. So, and if there's an issue where we reach a point, we just refer them. Go to this organization. They're helping with this. Go to the police station. Ask for this. So we will refer them. But yeah.
Thanks again. This is so informative and so helpful to understand and know about what you're doing and how you're doing it. I have deep respect for that. I come out of a long history of radio, television, and print journalism, so I know how hard you're working. But you talked about the future for Tu Prensa, and what, you are doing all the work, and you are going to need help, and you are going to need employees and new journalists. And I'm wondering, East Hampton High School is, I would say by now, at least 50% Latino. And do you have any connections with them? Do they have, I don't know whether they have a journalism club or anything, but it occurred to me immediately that they should know about you to inspire journalists coming from that student body and to encourage them to go on to journalism school or whatever, but they could be working with you and training and getting experience working with Tu Prensa. So.
That's one of our plans. We have been talking about to have summer camp with the students and give them the opportunity to practice journalism and learn how to do it. So that's one of the ideas.
Scott and Tom over there. Oh, Sarah's got it.
I had a question about where is the sort of split for your revenue? Where is that coming from currently? And the second part of it is, if next year money was not an object, where would you put that money? Where would it go? Where would you invest? And specifically in order, what would that look like?
So right now, we get the most money from advertising, regular advertising. We follow rules for that because we're a nonprofit, so we just can't have any political advertising from things like that. That's not what we want, but that's where we're at. We, as a very recent nonprofit, it's very hard to get grants because if you don't have a history, you can't apply for a lot of grants. It turns out we didn't know this. So yes, we are in the process. And some private donors who have helped us, fund some of the mission this year. If money was no object, I love that question. Well, we would immediately hire more people, immediately hire more people. I don't know who was pointed out, we are overworked and we need to do, yes, and we need to do a lot more than what we do. And really, when you are overworked, your work gets diluted. And it is not as it should be, right? So we would immediately hire more people. We would have a newsroom of our own. We would create our own studio. We would, maybe pay ourselves a little bit more, and especially we would focus on the educational part of the project. If we had more people to cover things that we need to cover, then we will be able to create those programs like the summer camp and many other things that we have in the plans. We have so many great ideas, we think, right? We just need now the resource to put them together. And you see out here, you have great media outlets. We partner with them all the time. You have the Express News Group, you have the Riverhead News Review, you have Rural Local, and they do great things. And I feel, and we feel like the Latino community should have the same opportunities, for the community forums, for so much. So right now, it's about 80,000. Yeah, for everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Tom. Yeah.
Thank you for this presentation. It's been really eye-opening, very, very helpful. I wonder, on the journalism itself, can you measure the level of engagement with specific stories? And if so, what kinds of topics are the ones that really get your audience engaged?
Well, that's a good question as well. The stories where a Latino person is thriving, for example, where you see, I'm going to say this cliche, but the American dream coming true. Like, for example, we saw a story before, this barber who, in his country, in Guatemala, was cutting hair under a tree outside his house. And we went interviewed him. He was opening his second barber shop on the North Fork. So that was like, such a success story. And he got hundreds of shares and likes and everything else because people get so inspired. They can say, I came to this country for this. This is so amazing. I can be this person. So that gets a lot of feedback. Also, our community mobilizes when something is happening. Somebody has passed away, for example. A lot of Latino immigrants die and they have nobody here. They just die alone. There's no funds for them for family that can actually pay for a funeral or have their body sent back to their countries. So our community is very solidarity. Yes, has a lot of solidarity. Yes, and they actually put these campaigns to raise the funds to help that person be sent back to their country. So that also gets a lot of shares and things like that. When things like, this happened during the summer of the ice, I always call it the horrible summer, when we had ice raids, and there was a lot of fear in 2016, Yeah, well, that has happened for a couple of summers, right? And when that happens, that also gets a lot of attention, things like that. People trying to protect each other. People saying, I saw this weird card outside my door. You know, is that ICE? Are they coming for me? What am I gonna do? And so people like, shh, you know, they mobilize as well. So there's many different kinds of stories that get a lot of attention, but I would say those are like.
And also police staff, where people loves to know what's going on around. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, I do actually. So, being Guatemalan or being Colombian or being, my perception is that that there isn't really a Hispanic person. You are either Guatemalteco, you're Colombiana, and you're, Oaxaqueña. How do you forge an identity of being a Latino community that actually translates into political power and representation? And how do you see your role of La Prensa helping folks to understand that if they work together, they have a lot more power than if they continue to be just from the country that they were born in?
So that is very true. Actually, Latinos don't refer themselves as Latinos. They refer themselves as Colombiano or Guatemalteco, Mexicano. They always tell you where they're from. But at the same time, society tells them, you're Latino.
You're Mexican.
You're, right? So, yeah. So they feel there's kind of a togetherness in that sense, that they feel, protective of each other. They feel that they're in this group apart, even though within the communities are very different. How that translates to political power? Well, like in all groups, Latinos have very different political views, very different. There's diversity in that as well. There's Latinos that are very conservative. That are very conservative, that don't believe in abortion or all of those things, whether religious or whatever it is. So there is a divide there too. So we couldn't say, oh, because they're Latinos, they're all gonna vote this way or that way. No, that's not gonna happen. However, I think that the current elections right now, it's funny because only 2 candidates out of all of the candidates on the East End reached out to us, one from East Hampton and one from Riverhead, to talk to ourselves, to reach our audience. Only 2, right? So how many are they out there? They don't care about the communities that they live in. That's my question. My question should be not on the Latino community, it should be on those candidates. What are you doing? What's going on with you, right? So to turn the tables around,
Ladies, thank you so much. This was incredible. It was so enriching and so informative. Please, Juliana and Maria, please give them an applause. And continue to spread the word. You can check out tuprensalocal.com. You can also follow them on Instagram. You can also join us tomorrow night if you're free. And of course, if you're not free, and there's only 4 tickets left anyway, but please encourage people to come to the door. There's always no shows. But the footage will be on our YouTube page eventually. So if you aren't able to catch it, as I noted, this is a beginning of a relationship and a dialogue, and we're so pleased that you're here with us tonight. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you to the husbands and the daughters and the families. Thank you.
And I'm going to leave here this if you want to donate. Thank you.
Thank you.